What's up, everybody? Welcome to the brand new video format. Hopefully, this goes smoothly. Otherwise, we will have to can it and get rid of it. But for now, this is essentially going to be the template that we are using. If you guys have any questions or anything, do not hesitate to comment them wherever you're watching the live stream, whether it's Facebook or whether you're actually trying to get on the call itself. Um, in this call, what I want to focus on is I want to focus on two main things. And of course, any comments, questions, concerns, or requests from you all. But essentially, what I want to focus on is going to be around one of two main items. And so, those two main things that I want to cover are going to be number one, creating a really in depth community to where you can kind of almost take a step back from SWAS and do what I'm going to call enriched SaaS. So, kind of reselling SaaS and having it be as enriched as possible. On the other hand, I also want to cover essentially using social media content post production and how you can actually include some of these features into a high ticket offer. So we're going to cover all of that. I want to see very quickly if any of you have any questions or comments, anything that you want me to cover. There may be a slight delay between me talking and you posting. So if you post a question, give me a few seconds just to see it. But if you have anything you want me to cover, go ahead and just comment that in again the thread. So to start, what I'll do is let me give you guys a few seconds, see if there's any questions. If not, then we'll just jump right into the program. So I'll give you guys about 15, 20 seconds, see if you guys have anything real quick. All right, I'm seeing Naman joined. Oh, and then he left. All right, so we will go ahead and just jump into the training. If anything pops up in terms of questions, then of course I'll be more than happy to help with that. Uh, but essentially, what I want to cover in this training is going to be the content creation, as I mentioned, and enrich SaaS. And I see Naman is here. Let's see if Naman has any questions. Hey, Naman, just went ahead and added you. Not sure if you can hear me or if we can hear you or see you. Just want to see if you have any questions before we jump into the main bit of content. And then I also see Jacob's question, which I'll bring up in a moment.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yep. Hey, how's it going?
Good, good. How are you?
Good. Do you have anything that you wanted me to cover aside from the enriched SaaS and content post production?
Uh, Nothing I can think of right now. Uh, um,
No, you're
no,
good. Just wanted to see. And then I think I just reviewed your website, right?
yeah. I saw that. I was, yeah. Thank you for reviewing and very, very good feedback that I'll definitely implement.
Yeah. And your website was I was not expecting it to be um, that clean. And your website was really, really high quality. So I was actually really impressed by what you sent. Uh, I don't mean that bad. Like I didn't expect it to be bad, but it was definitely like really high quality stuff. So super impressed. Um, for certain pages, did you have those as actually parts of the funnel, or was it all just in the website?
Like, so the way I kind of made my website was like to make it like a hybrid as like between a funnel and a website. I don't know,
Perfect.
like just like I don't know, it's like something I just kind of was thinking about. I'm like, what if I could just have like a two in one kind of thing? So, yeah, that was just like what I was trying for.
Yeah, and to update anybody else who's like maybe listening or viewing later, essentially he had his offers as funnels. So when you click on the offer or certain pages, then you would see like it would go into a funnel, and I could tell that I was in a funnel because it would like take me to where I couldn't. I had to like push the back button or click on the logo to go back home. So I thought it was really done well. So I wanted to give you props for that. Um,
Thank you.
yeah, of
Appreciate it.
course. Uh, and then yeah, just apply the little things we talked about, and yeah, you should be good. But I'll go ahead and jump into the content, and then if you have anything, just DM me or comment, and I'll bring you back up. Okay,
Cool, cool. Thanks.
awesome. Yeah, and so the next question I want to cover really quickly. Looked like Jacob asked, which platform is bringing you the most ROI at the moment? So the for me right now, the answer is probably pretty painfully obvious, and that's going to be Facebook. Facebook is just going to be the best, in my opinion, um, just simply because if we're working with local service based businesses predominantly or primarily, then this is going to be the place to find them. It's always all over Facebook. Um, that's just to be the best for me. But again, that's why I want to cover the content post production. I see Imram just joined, so I'll see if he has any questions. But that's why I want to cover the content post production because that is just going to be a really easy way to take full advantage of the hybrid conjugate social media presence that we talk about within the training. So I'll be connecting that for everyone. So for the content post production, um, the way so what I'll do is I'll essentially break it down and then I'll explain how you can actually make this actionable for your business. So post production is going to very simply refer to I'm recording long form content and then I'm post producing this into smaller pieces. So when I say smaller pieces, I'm referring to, let's say we do an hour conversation. From that hour conversation or hour video, what you're going to do is you're going to turn that into social media clips for Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, whatever, shorts, reels, whatever it is, right? Usually it's going to be vertical or maybe square format. You're not going to see too many short form content clips in a landscape format. Usually that's going to be your longer form stuff. Then what you're going to do is you're going to pull the audio, and the full audio can become a podcast. You can pull audio snippets. The audio snippets can essentially become audio bites that go on Instagram. The transcript you pull from the entire conversation can become SEO rich blogs. They can become tweets. They can become captions. So you can essentially take one long form piece of content and you can post produce it depending on how you post produce it, you can even take stills and have those be posts, right? You can post produce it into up to 33 different pieces of content. And I'm not talking about 33 different clips. I'm talking about 33 different formats, depending on how crazy you get with it. And I'll provide some resources. So some really good resources. If you look at repurpose.io, they have this really cool graph. And on that graph, it'll essentially show you, uh, it'll show you, for example, the way that you post produce all of this content. Um, so that's a really cool tool to use, and I'll show you essentially how you can actually make that actionable. So I see Naman has a question on Facebook groups versus school. So Naman, I'm going to bring you back up, and just so you can give us some clarity into what you into your question, some context into your question.
Yeah, I just had a question like regarding like just in general, like with people like I guess what do you call it? Like engagement,
Mhm.
having people stay more engaged. Um like I feel like people go on Facebook, for example, for different reasons.
Yeah.
Unless somebody's like really, really engaged, um, then I feel like then they'll kind of like stick with the group. But I don't know, I just like see like school kind of like popping up a lot within like the coaching consulting community a lot. I feel like
Mhm.
so just wanted to get your thoughts essentially on that and what you have to say about it.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, like whether it's school, whether it's Discord, whether it's even like your own membership community where maybe you're doing it through some kind of like a training platform. Even if you're doing it within high level, because high level has that membership, ability now or whatever that they're working on. I think it's kind of new. It's kind of in beta. I don't really know exactly where it is, but essentially, like what it boils down to is like where is the community going to get the most amount of value from you. So for me, the appeal of using something like Facebook is that it's not that difficult to bring people up to speed with using something like Facebook. That's number one. Number two, everybody within the Facebook community, it's a really quality, rich, engaged community because it's on Facebook. So for example, on Facebook, usually people aren't going to have burner accounts. They're not going to have, uh, you know, they're not gonna have anything besides who they are most of the time. You're gonna have your scammers, yeah. But if I hop on Twitter, like every account on Twitter is gonna be crazy. If I hop on Discord, people can just make a random Discord and hide all their personal information. And so what you'll see is that you'll see people are much more bold with doing things they really shouldn't be doing, with negative feedback, with negative engagement. On Facebook, when your name is kind of tied to who you are and your family and things of that nature, usually people are much more positive and inquisitive on Facebook. So that's number one with why I like Facebook. Number two is it's really easy to engage people because the group is already on a social media platform that most people are checking on a frequent basis, right? Because most of you found me on Facebook. So that tells me, cool, they're spending time on Facebook. So I might as well be where my potential clients are. Same for you guys. If you're working with local service-based businesses and I'm telling you to be on Facebook, it's really convenient just to have everything in one central location where everybody can engage. So that's kind of my reasoning for Facebook. If you can achieve the same result in whatever capacity, right? Then by all means go for it. Um, what I will say, this is the only thing I will say, make sure it's well, let me back up. What I will say is essentially it doesn't have to all be central to high level. So I see this all the time where people are like, well, I want to add a CRM, but it's not, how do I make it all in high level? Or I want to add this, but how do I make it all in high level? I want to be able to do underwater basket weaving, but how do I make it all in high level? I think people are so connected to having this all-in-one software that they forget it's okay to have multiple different software, and that's perfectly fine. As long as you have the tools to do what you need to do, then you're doing absolutely fine. And if you have a central communication platform, like Slack, for example, Slack is a phenomenal tool if you want to have all of your teammates communicate in one location. You can have automations using Integromat, which is now Make, or Zapier, and push all the communications and automations that can notify you there. It's a really, really nice platform to start with for automating the communication. I've seen some people use WhatsApp. I've seen some people use Facebook groups. I've seen some people even use Telegram, which is feels super spammy to me. But at the end of the day, as long as you have a system that makes sense and people are engaging, it really doesn't matter how you do it, right? If you do it in person, look at AA meetings, right? They're like in the basement of a church around like, coffee and stale donuts, right? As long as they're meeting and doing what they need to do, it doesn't really matter in which facet. Now, it's going to be interesting to see how new platforms, and when I say new, I mean like newer to the trend, not new in general, but newer trending platforms. It's going to be interesting to see how those platforms try to elevate their game in terms of automations and trainings and having a really software rich focus. But in the meantime, it's good just to be where your people want to be, which right now is Facebook.
Got it, got it. Thanks. Yeah, I just wanted to get your take on it. And yeah, I can agree with all those points. It's kind of just like how you, I guess, how you kind of connect with that community and how you basically
Mm.
like what you want to make out of it, right? So like, I guess even for yourself, like you have your Facebook group and community, but then even like running these calls, now you're like testing this thing out. So it's like you'll also be kind of like seeing what works and then kind of just tie that in and make that more longer lasting, essentially.
Yeah, 100%. And one of the reasons I'm using this software is actually going to be one of the things that we're about to talk about, which is going to be the content post production. I'm going to answer Imram's question, but then I want to cover the content post production and kind of elaborate a little bit as to why I moved with this kind of a software. So, uh, I'll cover kind of like, because I know most of you know a lot of the trainings have been released. So I can cover all of that information, but I want to kind of tie it in. I'm going to go ahead and add Imram and Tim as well to the stream, if you guys want to participate. But what I'm doing with the this new software, right? Again, I'm using StreamYard. It's not new software completely. It's just newer to what I'm using. The reason I'm using this, and to kind of go into the content post production before I answer Imran's question, is essentially the following, right? If I can simplify, which is what we cover in the training, right? We cover the SASO process, which is simplify, automate, scale, optimize. So what happens is you have to start, right? The first thing you do, whatever it is, it's gonna be ugly. So let it be ugly. So the first thing I did, go back and watch the first trainings, right? It was recorded on the 720 quality MacBook webcam, posted directly to YouTube. That was like 4 or 5 weeks ago, something like that. And essentially, then I got a nicer webcam. So now I'm recording in 1080. Then I went from recording in Google Meets to recording here. And then from here, you can already see the quality looks a lot nicer. I can do intros, I can do hold music, I can do outros. And so the appeal for me moving with this kind of a software is the same thing that I'm teaching everybody in the SASO process, which is simplify and automate. and then scale. So, and I'll show you how I'm essentially doing the full process. I'm going to show you how I'm doing that in like right now. Number one, simplify. For me to create content, here's what I have to do. And this is going to be, and I'm going to tie this into how you can use this for your very own business as well. I have to record the interviews or the calls. Then I have to throw it into some kind of audio cleaner to make sure the audio is podcast quality. Then I have to post produce it. Then I have to edit it and add the captions and add everything. Then I have to post it. And most of the time with YouTube, I'm just throwing it right up on YouTube, and that's still getting me subscribers. By doing it this way, you can already see the quality improvement. This will actually go directly to YouTube. And then this quality will be much, much nicer because you can already see the quality is better. The webcam is better. I can bring people in and out. I can throw on an intro. I can throw on an outro. Any question that comes in, I can throw it in as a banner. And so you can essentially see how the quality is improving. From here, what I can do, because the quality is improving, it's going to give me way less work on the back end. I can also, using StreamYard, I can also repurpose this content into content for YouTube, into content for Instagram, into content for TikTok. So what happens now is because I've moved with this software, I've now simplified and automated that process. And I'm going to increase my scale because if I can do this at a much, much easier rate of force, then what I can do now is I can now uh, do it at a larger scale. So, right. So let's say, for example, it takes me 1 hour to post produce all the content. Now I can do all of that in a matter of 10 to 15 minutes, which means I have more time to add more trainings. I have more time to record more calls. I have more time to do more outreach. Again, everything we cover in the Simplify and Automate training within SASO University. So now what you're seeing, and you guys have all seen this, I was able to release 3 trainings this week versus 1, right? That's a massive output production for me, or a massive increase in output production for me. And now that means that you all get to benefit from it. So that's essentially where there's a lot of value. And then, of course, all this content gets post produced into short form content. It gets post produced into TikToks. It gets post produced into whatever I want. And what's that going to do for my community? It's going to attract more people to the community. It's going to put more eyes on the business. And we all know the top of funnel when it comes to building, whatever it is you're building. But when it comes to building the business and having the sales funnel, right? It's having eyes on the business. And so this is going to let me at scale put eyes on the business. And I'm going to record one group call where I'm helping all of you and answering your questions. And like we talked about before, when you're interviewing your leads and you're interviewing your clients, they're going to tell you what type of content they want. And that's going to pivot me into answering Imram's question, which I'll do. I know I keep mentioning it, but I want to get through this part first and then I'll cover his question. But that's essentially the beauty of it. So here's the really cool part. And I'm going to go ahead and um, jump into the first section that I want to cover, which is essentially the content post production. So this is the really cool part. This is something that I met with Tim about a few weeks ago, helped him with a one-on-one call, and he is landing a massive client. I would definitely love to pick Tim's brain in a second because I think, Tim, can you give me like a thumbs up? Did you have your client interview today already? Awesome. So I want to bother you about that in a second and see how that went. But in the meantime, I want to share with you guys kind of what Tim and I went through. So, and this is something that helped me land one of my first high ticket clients. So, with content post production, what you can do is you can reach out to these business owners who we know they value a digital presence. We know they might have struggles making a digital presence because that's who we're targeting, right? We're targeting people who need a better website, who need SEO, who need marketing. They need social, they need all the stuff. So, one of the high ticket items that I covered with Tim that I do to myself to this day, it was actually one of the first things I did that landed me my first $49.97 client. So it was right under 5K. What I did was I hopped in these community rich groups, right? Of business owners, of plumbers, of electricians, of chiropractors, of dentists, whomever, right? Whether they're industry specific or not, doesn't matter. I would hop into these industries and I would essentially say the following. Hey, does anybody want free coaching, no strings attached? What I can do is I will not only coach you for free, but I will also post produce content for you. So we will film an interview. I will ask you SEO rich content. This is the cool part. SEO rich content. We've covered that in the other trainings. All you do is type in the industry. You want buyer intent. So act like you're buying something. Look at the drop downs and you want to answer all of those FAQ questions that drop down. Those all become questions that you ask them and that you interview them on, right? So the first half of the call, all you're doing is teeing them up with these easy questions that they can just knock out of the park that are SEO rich. So how much does auto body, let's say like ceramic coating, how much does a ceramic coat cost? You ask them that and they answer it. How do you price it? What kind of work goes into it? Those are all questions that people are searching that want to buy. And so now when you ask them that question and they answer it and it goes on their social media and you pull the transcript and that goes on Twitter, that goes on the Facebook page, that goes on the blog for long form, you post produce it in all the ways that we talked about. Now, when somebody is searching that on whatever platform, your client is more likely to show up. And so the appeal is you can ask them all these SEO rich questions. You ask them in the first half of the interview. All of that gets post produced, which takes you 15 to 20 minutes. Let's say your first time, and I'm sure Tim's going to have some insight. The first time is probably the longest. So let's say like 3, 4 hours to be, to just cover the bases, right? I'm at the point where I can do it in under 20 to 30 minutes, but let's just say 3 or 4 hours for your first time doing it, right? And then from there, what you're able to do is you're able to put everything together. You can use a software called WeTransfer, WE Transfer. And when you use WeTransfer, you can just send everything over. You basically get a large file and you can just send it over really easily. They even have like a free plan where it's like anything under 2 gigs you can send over. But you can get a WeTransfer subscription, send it over. You can use Box and send it over. You can have a Google folder, put it in there, send it over. They can download it. And what they get, right, is they get all this content they can now put on their social media. They can put on their website. They can put wherever. And how long did it take you? It took you a 1 hour interview. And it took, let's say, again, for your first time, 3 to 4 hours of post production, but that dwindles down to 30 minutes. It sounds, I don't know if it sounds believable to you or not, but it really does dwindle down to 30 minutes because you're going to use the following software. You're going to use Video.ai. You're going to use Opus.pro. They're the exact same thing. One is more developed, one is more TikTok oriented, but it's Video.ai and it's Opus.pro. So I'm going to go ahead and put that at the bottom. Video.ai, Opus.pro. You can look at Repurpose.io. And then let's look at Descript or Adobe Podcast for your audio quality. And so I'm just going to put that right there if anybody needs help spelling any of those. So all of these help you. What they help you do is they help you take the video, you post produce it, you can clean the audio. I like to clean the audio before because when you clean the audio before, then you can just post produce it versus cleaning the audio for every little snippet. And then you can transcribe it using Descript or even Otter.ai or any other software. Pull the transcript, you can throw it into Chat GPT and say, hey, format this for SEO, expand it, or Claude, right? And then you can take all of that and it gives you a phenomenal starting point because then you go into Video.io or Opus.pro. They're not going to be perfect, but then you can edit, you can move it around, you can add the captions, you can change the style, and then you can mass export. Then you clean the audio, then you transcribe it, you pull everything, and you'll find the order that you prefer. Me, I like to clean the audio while I pull the transcript, then post produce. In the post production, I change the template and then I mass export. That's just me. You'll find the way that you like to do it and you'll find what's best for you, but that's the way that I enjoy doing it the most, just because I find that I'm able to do it very, very quickly. So that being said, here's what you do, right? You hop in these groups, you say, hey, I'm going to give you free content. We hop in this thing. Here's all the benefits, right? It's SEO rich. Well, I'm going to interview you. And that's going to be the first half of the call. The second half of the call, you're going to offer them free business coaching. And if you're thinking, I don't know business coaching, yes, you do, because that's all I'm teaching you guys. Hop in the training, go watch any of the trainings. You have the 7-step $0 client acquisition model where you can show them how to use social and organic to get up to roughly 5K, depending on their ticket point, or these free methods to help them. You can go through the SASO process is now fully out. Look at the SASO process. That right there is very low level, yet extremely effective business scaling. It's very effective business coaching because it teaches you how to simplify the business, automate the business, scale the business, and optimize the business. And that is exactly what we do to automate, expand, and ultimately exit your client out of their business or even you out of your business. So you know what to do when you talk to them. They're going to, so again, you're teeing them up for the first half. And then here's what I'd always say. I'd always say this: cool. I've asked you all the questions. I think I have a good grasp or a good understanding of your business. Now I want to pivot and now I want to give you some advice to space off your business. Here's the cool part. If we look at the ultimate closing framework, What is the most crucial component of that framework? It's discovery, right? Because you have to know what they're looking for. You have to know what the pain point is. You have to know where they need help. So it's discovery. Guess what you're doing by asking them all these SEO questions? It's discovery. So when you go into your coaching portion, now you're going to finish out the framework and you're going to say, okay, here's the other questions I have to finish my discovery. Now I'm going to figure out why they couldn't have skill on their own. Now I'm going to go into um, acknowledging the gap and where they want to be, and then blah, blah, blah. And you're going through the full 10 steps, right? Then you're basically pushing them into a sales call. And so at the end, you're telling them all the things you would do. You're saying you can always do this yourself. You can hop on YouTube. I'm also going to send you the content. You can post produce, or I'm going to post produce it for you. You can just schedule it to your social media. Super easy, super high quality. And then what's going to happen? If they need help, they're going to tell you, well, what if you did it for me? What would that cost? And then you're in. If they tell you, cool, I'm really good at XYZ, but I need help with ABC, then you're in. If they're like, hey, I'm not interested, guess who they're going to come back to when they are interested? You, because you've coached them, you've asked them questions, you've given them content, and you've helped actually guide them. And you know what the best part is? If the entire call is a flop, guess what you get to do? With the second half of the call where you coach them, you're going to take that and that's going to become your content. And now when you post produce that 60-minute conversation, let's say it's evenly down the middle, 30-30, just for math's sake. Let's say you have 10 clips for the first half that goes to the client. And now you have at least 10 to 20 clips on the back half that go to you. And it's all you asking questions and then you prescribing what you would do. And then that can be post produced as VSL. That can be post produced into a PAC with the way you frame your questions or your comments. That can be post produced into client interviews. That can be post produced into snippets. And that goes in your social media. And if you're wondering, does this actually work? Go look at all the big guys right now. Go look at Ryan Panetta. Go look at Gary Vee. Go look at anybody with a podcast. This is all they're doing, right? They have the microphone in the shot. Usually they're in the same room, but you don't have to be in the same room. You can do virtual podcasts, 60 minutes, post produce a copious amount of content. And again, once you dial in your process, you're looking at about 30 minutes of work. That's a nothing. 30 minutes of work. Let's say you do that once a week. And let's say you only get 10 clips. When I would do an interview, I would get about 15 to 25. But let's say you only got 10 clips. That's enough content for every single day, twice a day video content. That's a massive amount of content. And then what can you do? You can do this within your own communities. So I know, I'm not sure if Todd and Rebecca, Team Rebecca is here, but I know if they're watching this, if you have plumbers or HVAC guys and they need help with their social media, you could do interviews where you're now coaching them. So if you want to do a free coaching call with them, you can definitely do that and have the coaching on the back half where you're post producing your content. Here's something else you can do. And this is where I want to not sidetrack, but this is where I want to pivot and get Tim's feedback of how his went because he actually just did this morning. But then what you can do is you can go to a client and say, hey, you need help with social media. What if once a week we recorded a conversation either between you and I or between you and someone else or whomever you want on this conversation, maybe 4 or 5 of us. What if we recorded a conversation and from that conversation, I post produce enough content for you to where we're able to post a blog a week, 10 tweets a week, 10 videos a week, 3 YouTube videos a week because we're going to segment it into thirds. And I'm going to post produce all of that for you. And we're going to price that at anywhere from 250 to 1,000 a video. That is 100% what I'm doing with some of my clients. I record a video, I post produce them all this content. It's a really easy way to start with a press release where if you're starting a new business, you just mass push all that content out there. Look at what's his name? Andrew Tate, right? Top G. Look at Top G, what he did. Out of nowhere, he was just all over podcasts and interviews, and it was just mass amounts of content. He did the exact same thing where he post produced it. And the last thing I'll say, and then we'll open the floor up to Tim and see how his experience went. You can even go on YouTube. This is really cool. If you're really big into video editing, you can go on YouTube. You can find the link. Let's say you find a profile or an account that has YouTube videos, but no shorts. That tells you they're not post producing, right? Find the link for these YouTube videos with no shorts. You can copy and paste the link into video.ai. You can copy and paste the link into Opus Pro or Opus.pro, right? You can copy those links and put them into that software and it will post produce the content for you from that software. You don't even have to download it. So here's what you could do, right? If you like video editing, you could put the link in, post produce the content, put it into a zip file, send it over via WeTransfer, send it over a box file, and you could contact the creator and say, "Hey, I noticed you don't have shorts. I went ahead and made 10 for you. Just post produce these from your YouTube channel. If you want, I'd be more than happy to keep doing this for you. Here are my fees, or let's hop on a phone call if you don't want to disclose your fees. And we could talk about how we can use shorts to really boost up your YouTube." These are all different ways where you can get your foot in the door and establish credibility. And you can price this stuff at a really, really nice high rate because think about how much time you're saving, right? For those of you who are listening and doing the step 3 training and you're actually creating content, the first time I filmed a TikTok, it took me 60 minutes for a 2-minute video to record it because it was just so awkward and I kept messing up and fumbling. And then after a while, it got faster and faster and faster. Then the editing had to get faster. And now I can record and post produce really quickly. And now I can do these calls and I can post produce them into all the snippets I want, dropping all these gems on social media. So that's the way that I did it. I would love to open the floor up to Tim and see kind of how that experience went and see how really just how it went, honestly.
It went good. It was really good. The quality of, I'm still having difficulty with my system here with the quality of my camera. Um, I Not now, but later on, I do need to get. It's funny because I've got so much video equipment, but I don't have a DSLR to use as a webcam. Um, so that's my one frustration. So I just ran with it. But secondly, his video quality was okay. It wasn't great. He used a Bluetooth mic, which we tested out. It was okay. It'll be fine to start. I had to turn he used his laptop camera. Again, it was okay. It wasn't horrible. But had to turn it around so I could see his room. He's a chiropractor, so I wanted to see the stuff on the wall, his, certificates on the wall, and also all his skeletons hanging around. And but I gave him. I did do my due diligence with respect to my keyword research. I probably didn't do it as well as I here's what I did. I did keyword research, but I didn't find the results that I wanted. It didn't apply, as the way that I wanted to. So I just went into, Bard or Chat I can't remember, what are the ChatGPT, and I went back and forth with him a couple of times to find out what the top ranking keywords were for chiropractic care in that city. And, I came up with about, I think it was a 10 or 11 topics, and they were actually pretty good. And it was basically what Bard gave me was the topic and then a short description of that topic. And so what the short description allowed me to do were ask follow up questions inside that topic. So one of the topics was chiropractic care versus other therapy, like massage, soft tissue,
Yeah.
and other stuff. And then also, chiropractic versus, invasive, stuff.
Mm, that's a good one.
So
That's a really good one for their industry. But yeah, you mentioned
yeah,
the mic issue. If you throw it into Descript and you turn on studio sound, it will clean
totally,
up.
yeah,
Yeah, and then
yeah,
same with Adobe Podcast, you can
yeah,
clean up. Adobe Podcast is I think it's free, but it's a little more complicated because you have to pull the audio, clean it, and then put the audio back. So, for anyone viewing, Descript or Adobe Podcast are gonna have really nice features. A
yeah,
little Descript Descript has like a certain amount of transcription hours. You can put the video into Descript and tell it not to transcript. So when it says, "Oh, you want to transcribe," you just exit out instead of clicking OK. And so you can use their audio cleaner and you never touch the transcription hours. So that's a really cool trick. You can get their cheapest plan, clean the audio, and it's super, super easy. It takes throw it in, click it, wait for it to be done, export it super quick.
yeah. So, and you and I kind of have differing. If I'm So with my podcast, what I did with him was I was going to use Riverside FM, but I'm still testing out. systems, and Riverside FM did not allow me to have a full res version. So
Try
I
StreamYard. That's why I left Riverside.
so I found it was iris.fm,
Okay.
iris.fm. It
Mhm.
it was awesome. It was really cool, very simple for my user. And it literally gave me 2 files. Each file had separate audios in them, which is very, very cool.
Very
Um,
nice.
and so what I do, and this is what I do all the time, period. I'm a video guy. So if I'm doing audio work, I finish my video first, and then I take all the audio clips and I export audio and I bring it back in and I put one effect on that whole thing.
Yeah,
Um,
very nice.
and I would do the same thing using Descript as well. Because honestly, but I use actually not that I'm getting too deep into the woods. I use a couple of plugins inside Premiere
Mhm.
that do the same thing as audio.
Oh, yeah,
And
if you know Premiere, like,
yeah,
that's gonna be way better. The approach I use is just, like, I'm a complete like, novice with video, and that's the easiest way, but if you are good with Premiere, I know we have some people who are really good with Premiere, I know we have some people who are actually insane with CapCut. Definitely, if you are better, then use those, and you can have more of a manual grasp on how you post produce it. Even in Descript, you can use a transcription and you can highlight it. It's a text-based editor. You can highlight what you want, export that, and then throw it into a template. So there's 1,000 ways to do it. But yeah, if you know Premiere, that's a huge advantage.
yeah. So what I'm actually going to do, and I just did this with a couple other podcasts that I shot. I have a guy that and you could do this a couple of different ways, but the way that I did it was easiest for me. I use Premiere all the time, everywhere. I'm an expert at it, but I didn't have time to edit these podcasts. These were about an hour long. And so I basically took the raw footage. I have like 2 files, one of him, one of me, and then one of the clean audio. And I dumped it all into Google Drive and I had my guy, and I took those, it isn't, I just had somebody else edit it for me. And so what they
How
did was
much
they
I mean,
edit,
do you mind
uh,
sharing how much that costs for people who are like,
it was $82. He's in Pakistan.
"That's nothing. That's
Yeah.
nothing."
Yeah, it was really good. I mean, I can't, I charge $100 an hour to edit, and so I couldn't afford to do that. Um, I mean, I could, and but it's just really tedious for me,
Yes.
especially so for my Cairo, it wasn't as, I tried to make it as fluid as possible, but we had to
Mhm.
stop a couple of times and start because one thing you have to tell people is to restate the question so I can use that clip all by itself. So, like, if I say, you know, tell me about neck pain. And
Mm.
he'll say, well, we adjust here, here, and here. And I need him to say, when we have neck pain, we adjust here, here, and here. I just need
Yeah, right.
that clip to start it out with. Otherwise, it's out of context. And
One thing
so,
you can one thing you can do there really quickly is you can put, let's say, like, they're just not getting it and it's just really difficult, or maybe you forget to have them do that, you can put at the top for anybody listening, you can have a title, and you can have the title be your question. So, like, how we adjust neck pain or
oh,
why
that's
we
good.
do what we do. And so that'll be a nice way to kind of get through. Sometimes, though, in a perfect world, what you said is ideal. Like, if they can restate the question, give it context, even if they can restate it, and this will be something for you moving forward as you get better at it, you can restate it in a way where it's actually problem agitating. So, for example, if you ask me a question, I can make it problem agitating. You can be like, how would I do X, Y, Z? And I can be like, okay, cool. Well, most people think this is how you do it. In reality, this is how you do it. I know because I've done it before. We had these results. Let me tell you the story. Blah, 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 blah. And then I end it right there instead of having a call to action. But then that one clip is already in that problem agitating content format. And the beautiful part of it is for the call to action, I'm just going to put that in the caption itself. So I can say, join SASO University today, apply to work with SASO funnels today, apply for one-on-one coaching today, apply to work with Tim today. And the really cool thing is once you get better at it, it really is a skill you develop. But somebody will ask me a question. And what's interesting is you'll notice this is a skill we do in person all the time. Somebody's like, oh, well, I wanted to get a automatic car versus a manual. Like, you ever driven manual and you could be like, "Oh, let me tell you about the first, like, how I learned manual. My dad was a stickler. Now I know how to drive it, so I can talk about it, but back then it was off." Right there, I just agitate the problem and frame myself, and then I go into the story about how someone tried to teach me manual and the headaches and the pain of it. And you get really good at having these, almost like what you just said, right? It's almost like I'm making my own clip in person. But what's interesting is most of us already have this skill set when we're talking to our friends and family. It's just actualizing it into the business portion. And the best way to do that, like I mentioned to Tim and anyone paying attention or listening, the best way to do it is have a conversation. Because I think you mentioned, Tim, and I definitely want to see how that went, but I think you mentioned your client wasn't a big fan of social media and you're trying to figure out how to make content for them. And then we went to the podcast interview. It feels so much more professional. It feels so much more personable that it's not talking to a camera. It's now I'm talking to Tim and I can talk to Tim all day long. But the minute I'm talking to a camera, we start stuttering. We start forgetting what we're doing. We have to go back and refilm it. We're taking an hour to film a 60-second TikTok, me. And so this is just a really easy way to kind of break that barrier down, especially I'm going to shout out Team Rebecca again. If you're working with these blue collar guys who hate social media, and they don't want to get on a camera, it's a really, really nice way to break that barrier down and say, hey, we're just going to talk, I'll film, and this is what we get out of it. And you're still going to get benefit because we'll still do some coaching. But for your guy, Tim, was that the case? He was kind of like hesitant towards social media before trying that style?
Yeah, he still doesn't want to have anything to do with social media. But again, it just in interviewing people, what I noticed is that um, it once you break the oh my gosh, I'm on video mentality, you're just talking to an expert. And just like me, like if I'm doing a one-on-one with somebody and I start talking about all these cool things I'm going to do for them, I kind of forget about that, this is a sales call and, I get excited about it. I'm excited about my expertise and in the moment. Everybody else is the same way. If you've been a plumber forever, you know everything about plumbing. If I start talking to you about, after we warm, if I start talking about to you about your thing, once you get over the little hump, you're pretty and my Cairo was the same way. I asked him some really specific questions and then some details. And he was pretty good in his answer. He once he got past that initial state, I think his answers are going to be pretty good. We chatted for about 40 minutes. In that 40 minutes, I will have probably 12 full clips to use um, that I'm going to clip out video clips. But then you know what? I got to be honest. I have no idea what I'm doing with the rest of it. The Twitter, I'm going to have some idea, but what I'm unclear of is how to post what video.ai, video.ai is a very cool application. You can clip out everything and I can't remember how much it costs. It's like $30 a month or $15 a month or like 300 for the year or something like that. But it's definitely worth it. It's a little on the clunky side if you can get past some of the things I mean, if you do good interviews, it'll do a great job. If your interviews are not that great and the AI cannot find a good start and end point, that makes things a little rougher. But
But
yeah, that's great. So
yeah.
that's my biggest issue right now is, you know, when to post what and, kind of
Yeah. So, and that's what I want to hop in. And that's why I love having these conversations where you guys can hop in and we can kind of address these together. But, so the full video, we'll just go through this pretty quickly. Full video, Facebook page, Facebook group. This can be the same for LinkedIn. So the full interview can go on LinkedIn. The vertical clips, 60 seconds. And really what I'll tell you is, again, this document is a little outdated, not very outdated, but a little outdated. So you're looking at probably 1 to 3 minutes, sometimes even 30 seconds. I'd say 30 seconds to 3 minutes. You're looking at Reels, feed, TikTok, Twitter, LinkedIn, YouTube Shorts, Pinterest, idea pins, again, Facebook page. I wouldn't do stories. What I would do for stories is I would keep stories to what we covered in the step 3 training, which is essentially client wins, client testimonials, lifestyle stuff. And even you can do an announcement, hey, full interview just dropped, go check it out. So that would be a good one. Now the full video for written, so green is going to be your written. The full video is going to be a blog post, rich with SEO, and then you can have the YouTube video embedded at the top or the bottom. And I'm going to cover that in just a minute. Well, actually, let me cover that right now. So you can actually, I don't think they have it here. They don't. So I have one that they don't have. If you have a newsletter where you're doing an email newsletter, this is really cool. You can have this at the top of your blog and you can have this at the bottom of your newsletter. This is going to get you or your client YouTube video views. This is going to be the biggest step towards number one, evergreen content. And number two, an additional revenue source. Because if you're having people come and view your websites, you can actually start making money off of the ad revenue with YouTube. So I'm not saying you're going to be a YouTube star. I'm not saying you're going to be Jake Paul or whoever next, YouTuber with two first names. But what I'm saying is it's a really nice way to boost your YouTube views. So you're posting it on YouTube. And then the full video, by the way, can go on YouTube as well. And then you are embedding that YouTube video link at the top of the blog or even in your email. And what you can do is when you run, let's say when you start running ads and you have a very low budget, you can just run ads to your community or to your social media pages and boost your views in your community, which will indirectly boost your ad revenue. And then you can summarize. So you can tell ChatGPT, I've been using Claude like crazy, Claude.ai. I'm using Claude. You can do is you can download the transcript, throw it in there. You can say, hey, summarize this in roughly 2,200 characters. I don't say characters. Usually what I say is I say, hey, summarize this in roughly 500 to 1,000 words. I say no less than 500 words, aim for 1,000. And it usually will spit out something in between. And then that can go to a Facebook text post, a LinkedIn text post, anything you put on Facebook, go ahead and just throw it back up on LinkedIn. Those two are borderline synonymous. And then it can also be a caption for Instagram under either a snippet of the interview, a screenshot of the interview, or a post of the lifestyle. And then the quote graphic. So when you have the 60 seconds, right? These, when you have a 60-second snapshot, right? It's usually going to be a pretty good clip or an answer to a question. You can take the transcription from just that vertical clip, and that can become the tweet. That can become a quote graphic. So if you go on Canva and you see those squares and it's got like the nice little quotes, like a 1 or 2 liner, you can pull one liners out and that can become graphics. Those graphics can be shared on all of these. With the audio, this is kind of where it comes into both, right? You can have these audio clips and they're vertical audiograms. So what that means is, especially on Descript, you can do this really nice on Descript where you have the profile picture of the individual, which you just pull off Facebook or LinkedIn or whatever they want to use. You just pull their profile picture. On Descript, you can have the audiogram, which is basically like when they talk, like the volume rises or whatever, and you put that circle around their profile picture. So every time they talk, it bounces. And then on the left-hand side, you can have it say something like interview with so-and-so, or learn about the ins and outs of um, chiropractor practice, blah, 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 whatever. And so you can take that. And now those do really well on IG, LinkedIn. They're better for IG and LinkedIn. They're maybe Facebook if you want. But you can take the entire podcast and then you can put the podcast, even if you have the interview, you can put the entire podcast in the exact same audio, but the video is different. And now it's just an audiogram. And you can have longer audiograms, you can have shorter audiograms. And then you can have, of course, the full podcast. And of course, you can throw those things into Google Drive and Dropbox, which can be then sent to, whatever VA you want to use or, something of that nature.
Okay, let me ask a follow-up question. Do you would you stagger content or you just post it all at the same time?
I would stagger it. I would schedule it. I wouldn't use high level social media scheduler because it's not the
Yeah,
best.
right.
I'd probably use something like Social Bee because it's super cost efficient. There's some other alternatives out there, but Social Bee is a really, really cost efficient one. If you're just on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, you can even just honestly put it into, or not Twitter, I'm sorry, TikTok. If you're on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, you can just put it on Facebook's Meta Business Suite, and that has its own scheduler for Facebook and Instagram. And then TikTok, you can put it in your drafts and just upload it once a day. So you can do it manually just to start out. Naman asked what's wrong with the Go High Level one. I've just seen sometimes where, Tim said it's difficult to use. Sometimes it's really just, it doesn't actually work. So it can be kind of painful. Try
And
it out.
then it's limited. I don't think you can do reels with it right now.
Yeah, there's definitely some limitations to it. Social be anything where you have the platform that's really strong. That's where I'd recommend using it. And again, this boils back to what I said earlier. You don't need to have one tool that does everything. Think of this, right? If you're going to go build a house, are you going to take a Swiss Army knife Probably not. You probably want a hammer, you probably want a screwdriver, you probably want a drill, you probably want a saw, you probably want different tools that are really good at what they do. You probably want like an electric saw, right? You probably want to have your own like horse set up with the saw, right? You probably don't want to go in there with the little saw and the Swiss Army knife. So high level is a Swiss Army knife. It's a very powerful Swiss Army knife, but it is a Swiss Army knife. What I will say, here are the strengths of high level: funnel, website, they have blogs coming out. And then, of course, you have the metrics that it's collecting and the dashboard in there. So for me, the funnel is one of the best parts about high level because I can track the metrics, I can split test, I can do all that stuff. ClickFunnels is another really good alternative, but you can't really white label it. So that's where high level has a really, really big strength is just the dashboard, the all-in-one inbox, those tools. But they're also, think about it, it's a Swiss Army knife. They're trying to improve every facet at the same time. So what high level will be in the next 2 to 3 years is going to be insane. However, right now the social media one's just a little, um, it's just not the best, unfortunately.
Okay, so quick question, follow up on the staggering.
Mhm.
When I say staggering, do you mean post content A in a reel, post content B in a post?
So you're saying A and B, it's like the same piece of content?
No, A and B are two different pieces of content. Or would you just post A everywhere right now?
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah. So again, it refers back to the strengths of the platform, right? So Facebook is going to do really well with the landscape, the longer form video, and the shorts, or the I think they're called shorts or reels, or whatever they're called. There's so many different names for the same exact thing. So I would do the shorts on all the platforms. Here's the cool thing with any shorts: the life cycle of a short is, it's almost instant. Like, you post it, it's got like 12 to 72 hours unless it goes viral, and then it's dead, right? So you can actually repost those several times. So I can take
Mhm.
post A1 and I can repost it. Let's say I have 30 clips, I can repost it at the end of the cycle. And so there are some social media schedulers where you can actually put a docket of all your content and it will actually cycle through. So it'll post one a day from that docket. And so if you don't post any other content to that docket, it will just cycle through those 30 clips. So every day 31, you're starting back from scratch. And because of how so short that life cycle is of short form content, it's a really, really powerful tool. I'll see if I can find the name of it and share it with you guys. But you can have that where you just basically throw it in there and it will reschedule it for you. And all you do is say, hey, I want to post on this day. I don't care what clip you pull from this content, and it will do it for you. So the shorts, go crazy with. The longer form stuff I would do once a week until it's all out, and then I wouldn't repost it because the longer form stuff is going to be more evergreen, especially if you're putting on YouTube. People aren't looking at the dates on YouTube unless it's something very relevant, like best camera of this year, best software of this year. But when you're talking about chiropractors, right, that's a very evergreen industry. So you really don't need to worry about like, oh, what's the new method of adjusting somebody's lower back in 2023? Let's go with what we know works, right? It doesn't matter when it was said or shared, kind of thing. Um,
Mhm.
so with the posting, it really just boils down to, again, what I cover in the step 3 training is I like to rotate. So I like to do like video, post, text, video, post, text, and then I'm done for the week. You could do, uh, you know, one video a day if you have that much content, or you can do a video every other day if you have that much content. And so it really depends on how you want to spread it out. And then just pivot it to where you're not posting the same piece of content. So maybe you're doing the reel, and then instead of doing the reel and the text and the audio from the reel all back to back, you can spread it out. So you could do, let's say you have the reel. So let's say content A, and then you have video, text, image, right? Or video, text, audio. You could have content A, video, content B, text, content C, audio, and then you can rotate. Cool. And I'm going to go B. And of course, you can have much more pieces of content than just 3, but that's kind of the way I would go with. That way I can reuse every different piece of content and just make sure it's done right. But again, when you have the image, the audiogram, those do really well on Instagram and LinkedIn. I probably wouldn't put an audiogram on TikTok or Facebook. I'd probably
Okay.
do Instagram and LinkedIn. And then the shorts are going to do any kind of short form media content is going to do well on any platform. Uh, even like even Twitter is where I'm kinda like, maybe." But, again, Twitter does really well with threads, and then the threads, you can screenshot those, and those can become Instagram, posts. So it's really all how you structure and how you use it, as long as you're doing it in a way where you're not just flooding the same piece of content. But again, if you have, let's say even you have one great clip, and then you pull a great one-liner out of that, yeah, you can post that back to back because people aren't gonna be like, "Wait a minute, you wore that shirt yesterday." Like, it's
Right.
not that, right? As long as the content is out there. So
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that's cool. You know what? I'm gonna have to put this stuff in a spreadsheet because it's gonna be freaking nuts to
Document, and this is what I told Tim the other day. I told him, document everything. Let this first process be the most painful one, because then instead of going from 3 hours to 2 hours to 1 hour, you can go from 3 hours to 45 minutes really, really quickly if you document it. Hand over the SOPs to your VA. And the way we create that is just screen record it once we know what we want to do with some instructions, send it over, and then we essentially just focus on coaching them. And again, I love working with Pakistani VAs. Naman, who is in our group right now, or not Naman,
Noman.
Noman. I always mispronounce his name. I always call him Norman, but I think it's Noman with no R. Noman always does a really good job. And he's one of our Pakistani VAs. The guy is super intelligent. I've got another guy named Sully. He is phenomenal. Just hired a third guy, or a third team, actually, not a third guy, named Uman. Uman is also nuts. They are so intelligent and so gifted. But again, you do have to give them the guidance. Um, so I want to jump into Imram's question, discussing the onboarding. And if Imram wants to speak, he can. Tim, I really appreciate it. I'm going to go ahead and pull up Imram, and let's see if Imram has any questions. So Imram, I saw your question where you essentially said, describe the most ideal onboarding process from the moment a sales call ends for a client, starting with the organic plan, website GMB, and teaching them how to use social. So before I answer that, do you want to add any context, or do you want to add any additional information before I jump into the answer?
Yeah. Um, so like as you can tell, I'm just all over the place trying to figure out what to do when. Um, I just want one single thing that I can just send every time I have someone new. I'm assuming every time I sign a client, someone who just needs a website, GMB socials, they need to know how to use socials. I don't know how to just like, every time I sign someone, just dump a quick link and then just be like, oh, here's the training, just follow it. And then just let me know if you have questions. That's what I want to do every time
Yeah.
when I have someone new.
Yeah, and that's a great question. And the reason I wanted to wait for your question so long is because that's actually going to take us into the second portion of what I wanted to cover, which is going to be creating a really enriched SaaS reselling company. So, to answer the question directly, right, the easiest way, this is the easiest way, it's to automate the full thing from the Go High Level calendar, and then also to have a membership, or not membership, a custom link. In the custom link, you would have the video training where you're covering all of this stuff. So for example, if you recorded, just like I'm recording in my membership, you record all those trainings on what you want to help them with. And you can start from scratch, and then they can say, hey, how do I do this? And what you do is you just record the video, put it in their training. That way, anybody additional who you onboard can now see that training. Again, you have that custom link. In the dashboard, which is super easy to do. If you need help, I'll send you an article from High Level themselves on how to do it. We have the custom link, which links to the membership. The membership has all the trainings. You can even see where they are. I can actually see where everybody is in the SASO University training. You can see when they've completed it, what they're looking at. You can give them assignments. You can give them subcategories and sub lessons and lessons. It gets really cool depending on how you build it out. But I would essentially, if you look in the calendar, this is kind of like the timeline, right? So you mentioned onboarding process from the moment a sales call ends. So let's say you're on the sales call, you close it. In the high level calendar, you can tag how that call went. When you tag it as closed, you can have an automation that once it detects or depicts the closed sale, it will then send an onboarding email to that individual. Or it will send, for example, instead of the onboarding email, it will send the link for them to sign up, right? Because they've got to sign up and pick their plan, or, whatever. Maybe it sends just a custom Stripe, depending on what program you're on, right? However you want to do it. It sends over whatever link you want them to sign up with. Once they sign up for that, they can get another email, and it just basically says, hey, welcome. Here's how everything goes. If you look on your website, you can have just a screen recording. Hey, if you look on the dashboard, once you sign in at the very bottom, here's all the training to figure out and do everything we need to do. And that's where you can have all of your coaching information already put in place, whether that's here's how to use social, whether that's here's how to set up the website, whether that's whatever you want to do. If you're doing video, hey, if you record the video, send it to me. Here's how you're going to do it. However you want it done, you're going to basically put it in that membership tab. And then when they go into the membership tab, it'll show them everything they need to do. So when they message you and they say, hey, how do I do XYZ? You can tell them, oh, cool, check out this training. It'll walk you through the whole thing. And if you don't have a training for it, You can then say, hey, give me 2 minutes. I'm going to record a training for you. Or, hey, give me 48 hours. I'll get a training over to you. And then you record that training. They have it. But now you also have that training for anybody who's going to ask in the future. Because again, you're going to be working with several clients. And if one person has that question, most likely several people will have that question. And so now it can all be found in that membership, that all can be found within that training. So again, sales call, tag it, or you can disposition how the sales call went. You can use an automation to basically send out whatever. And you can do multiple automations. You can say close on this package, close on that package, and that can send a different automation with a different email, with a different offer, however you want to do it. Once it goes out to them, they sign up. And once they sign up, they get a welcome email. The welcome email can say, hey, here's the membership, or here's the login for everything. At the bottom, you're going to see the training, which is a custom link. In the training, the first video can say, hey, to get started, here's what I need from you. I need you to fill out the form in the description. And in that form, I need you to include the following, or in the form, fill out all the questions. Here's an example of all the questions in the form. They're going to be, I need your brand logo. I need your colors. I need you can use a Google form for this. You can even use a high level form for it, whatever one, right? I need this. I need that. I need this. And as you go through your first couple of clients, I know you have your first couple of clients already, you're going to figure out, hey, I need this. I need A, B, C, D, E. And then you go, cool. You work with the next client. You go, oops, I also need A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. And then you go through your next client. You're like, dang, I need the whole alphabet. And so your form, as you go through this process, you can essentially continuously add to your form. And you can put some things required, some things not required. Or if you want to have it required and have an option where they say, hey, I don't have this yet. And then cool, I can upsell them. Maybe they need brand colors. Maybe they need branding. Maybe they need a logo. Maybe they need help getting set up with an account. I can put them in touch with an accounting buddy and I can get an overlap agreement where he sends me money for sending him a lead. Maybe he needs help with, whatever service, and I can direct them to that. And when you become the go-to, number one, you automate it with the membership aspect, which you build a custom link in the website, the backend, right? The dashboard of high level. You have that custom link. You have all this training. You record the video one time, everybody can see it, just like I'm doing. And then when they have questions, you either A, direct them to the video, so that saves you time, or B, you record a new training. So when you have that conversation, you have that conversation one time. And then that one conversation gets put into the membership. And then when the next person asks you, you go back to option A, which is, hey, go look at this training. And so the really cool part when you do it in the membership, this is the cool part, is that you can put your upsells in the membership. Yeah, I got you. So you can actually put your upsells in the membership. So when you put your upsells in the membership, and this is something that you're going to see in SASO University soon, you're going to see some upsells in there where I can essentially say, or you can essentially say, hey, if you want me to build this for you versus me show you how to build it, click on this link and it takes them through a new funnel or takes them through an upsell, it takes them through whatever. And you can essentially pitch your services that way. And you can say, hey, if you want to do one-on-one coaching, you can click here. If you want me to run your marketing, you can click here. If you want me to, do A, B, C, D, E, you can go here. If you want me to do whatever, click on this link. I will help you out. And essentially it's going to be a paid increase or a paid upsell. So that's a really cool way where you can embed that in the membership and you can actually have people upsell within that membership. And so to kind of tie all that together, if you want to just resell SaaS and you have no real interest in doing marketing, no real interest in doing these done for you services, what you can do is you can have a DIY program where in the DIY program, you do essentially what I just said. You bring them in and you have a membership and you have an exclusive group like we were talking about with Naman when he was asking about Facebook groups versus school versus, whatever else. And so you can bring them in and you can have this really exclusive community. And in the community, you have all these trainings, just like I have for you guys, but you can center it around a specific industry. So you can say, hey, we're not going to talk about the $0 7-step client acquisition model for SaaS agencies. We're going to talk about how to effectively and efficiently scale for plumbers, for dentists, for chiropractors. And this could be a full DIY program. And then, of course, within the program, you can, if you want, you can allude to, oh, by the way, if you want one-on-one coaching where we're going to do this with you, this is where to fill out the application. By the way, if you want done for you services and you really don't want to do this and you thought you could, you don't have the time, or you realize, hey, I've scaled up and now I want this to be hands off. Cool. We can do that for you. Here's the application link. And then when they apply, you can essentially vet who you do and don't want to work with based off of their questions on the application form. And for that, go back and watch the step 2 training where we talk about the evolution of the funnel for the SWAS and high ticket offers. So you can have these communities built at the DIY level. And again, you can scale them into the DWY or DFY, or you can start with done for you, perfect the process, document everything, and then from there, work backwards and create the DIY community. Personally, I prefer starting with the done for you because you can come in at a really higher ticket price point that can give you enough money to where you can focus on one client and really make sure that you're providing a good quality service, document as you go, and then you can mass produce that content and that quality training because you actually already done it before on a much larger scale in terms of pricing and hands-on work. Now you can price it at a DIY level where it's much more hands-off for you, but the content is going to be at a much larger scale versus the work being at a larger scale. So it's a really cool way where you can, there's so many different ways that you can really monetize reselling SaaS, but that is just a really cool way where you can essentially, um, you can essentially monetize it based off of your skills, your strengths, your preferences, right? Do I want to work one-on-one? Do I want to go straight into community building? Do I want to do both? How do I do it? Do I start at DIY? Do I start at DFY? There's so many different ways to do it. I'm kind of sharing my own way, but again, that's just my preference. So let's see. We've got a question. Let's bring it up. Question for the group: working with an ed tech company who are committed to Sugar CRM for a while yet. I would like them to move to a next gen sales process. So I wonder what you can come up with for a modern SIG process on SASO lines. Currently, Send and Blue is being used for mailers with any lead form from web being sent to me in a PDF email. So it sounds like you've got a lot of, um, it sounds like they've got a lot of different software that they're using in terms of what they're working with. Um, are you able to Alan, are you able to explain what they're looking to get from you or what they want from you in terms of like service or software? Are they looking for like an all-in-one solution? Or are they looking for you to take over? Uh, any feedback that you want to give there may clarify. If I'm looking at this question without any additional feedback, which I'm sure you're working on right now, but if I'm looking at this question without any additional feedback, what I would think out loud would be I would probably want to automate the whole process. So if you go watch, Alan, if you go watch the trainings that we just released, which are going to be all centered on the SASO process. So simplifying, automating, scaling, optimizing. You don't have to bring them to high level. Again, any more context would help me out, but you don't have to bring them to high level. What you can do instead is you can say, cool, what am I working with? Here are some automation tools using Zapier and Integromat. You can use VAs or contractors. I have a phenomenal contractor named Sully, and he's really good with automations. I'm sure Noman is also phenomenal with automations, but I know my guy Sully, I've used him for several automations too. So that's what you want them to do. Let me see. So yeah, so what I can come up with for a modern SIG process on SASO lines, I would basically, okay, so I think you're referring to like having them all centralized. I would essentially just focus on looking at the process overall. If they are committed to Sugar CRM, then just look at different software that may integrate with it. Like if I pull up Zapier, let's see if Zapier integrates with it. Let's see. No, I can't hear you, but if you want to join that link where you can hop in the call, then I would be able to hear you. Let me share that link with you. And then if you want to join, you definitely can. And that way, if you want to share your question out loud and give some context, you definitely can. So just shared that link with you. If you want to hop in there, but essentially my answer would just be take a look at what they are running in terms of their software and figure out how you can simplify it, automate it, scale, and optimize. And again, that's all covered in the training. How we document and break down the workflows, how we reduce and eliminate waste, how we automate redundant tasks, human tasks, and CEO tasks, how we then scale based off of the industry, using the industry lens while we look at scaling, and then how we optimize and repeat the process repeatedly as much as possible. And yeah, just put in Sugar CRM. Zapier does integrate with Sugar CRM 6.2 through 5, and Sugar Calendar. I don't know if they're all the same, but it looks like it does integrate with it. So that's what I would do. I would go look at Zapier, maybe even Integromat. I know Integromat is a little bit more user friendly, but Zapier has more integrations. I would look at those software and I would essentially say, how can I bring this all to a centralized location? I.e., Slack is always going to be my favorite. And I see Alan just joined. Let me bring him into the call and we'll see if he has any additional or different feedback.
Alec, can you hear me?
I can. How are you?
Yeah, not bad at all. Just landed at Gatwick Airport.
It's good
So
to meet you on the call. Do you want to give us some?
it is finally, yeah. So it's a company I work for. And I said to them, I said, what I'd like to do is to put a proposal together because the company markets next gen ed tech products. So I said, it's about time we move to a next generation sales process. So currently, they use Sendinblue for mailers. They've just started to use landing pages to a more effective way. So what I was thinking was using something like Vidyard, which allows tracking of metrics on video sharing. So if you send a video sales letter, then that can track the engagement. Help range, we can share documents and those documents can be signed by clients, but again, with tracking metrics. So I thought with high level, with those two, which both integrate with Zapier, as does Sugar CRM, but they're committed to Sugar CRM and they need everything to go back into there. But I'm thinking, well, Sugar CRM shouldn't hold us back from developing an effective modern sales process.
No, not at all. Not at all. And like, that's where this is where I am very, very big on leverage. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leverage people who are much more intelligent than I am. That's why I love working with the Pakistani contractors, because their intelligence level is so far from what I've seen, it's one of the most unmatched in terms of intelligence level. I have some VAs that I'd be more than happy to put in touch with you. You can even reach out to Noman and see if that's something that he wants to do. I have my own personal contractor that I'd be more than happy to share with you, named Sully, and he is an automation wizard. But essentially what I would tell you to do is I would say, look at the tools that you have, because one of two things happens. And I'm going through this with the client myself. They either tell you, we would like your recommendation on the software, or they tell you, this is the software, how can we make it work? Right.
Yeah.
That's where I love working with my guys, because they're automation experts. So what they can do, anything that takes like the API or the webhooks, which most, if not everything does at this point, what you can do is you can essentially say, hey, this is what I want to do with all the information. How can I make this centralized? How can I do what I want to do with it? And it really all boils down to the following. Whatever you're using, push it to a centralized mode of communication, which again, I'm going to advocate aggressively for Slack, because it's like $3 a user. And then you can have what's cool is with Zapier, it can actually take those, because it integrates with Slack and all these other platforms, it can actually make announcements in certain channels saying like, hey, something was shared. Hey, something, and you can do that when it happens. You can do that when you can do like daily metrics. So you could say like daily reports, like, hey, at the end of the day, here's the full report. You can have it notify you anytime it actually happens. It's really big. If this, then that software, right? The IFTTT. So it's really cool software where you can integrate it, but the software will almost never limit you. And I know that's something that people like really don't like hearing. The software will almost never limit you if you know what you're doing, or if you have someone who knows what they're doing with automation. So you can even, like, right now we're using high level because it's just so easy to white label and resell. You don't even have to really use high level. Like I've worked with clients where I'm like, hey, we're going to build this in your high level. We work with people where we're saying, hey, we're going to build this in, your ClickFunnels, different things of that nature. So You don't have to use it at a high level, but again, if you have someone who knows their automation, then you're going to be really strong in terms of just making the solution work. So that would be my recommendation, is just get an understanding of what they're using, talk to your virtual assistant, i.e. your contractor, and then from the contractor's point of view, just ask them like, hey, this is what I want to do. This is the software we are using. How can we make this happen? And from there, they will essentially give you different options. You can let them know, I like that, or is there a different way we can do it? And they will give you different options. So using those VAs, leveraging how intelligent they are, leveraging how many years of technical service they have over you just jumping in and trying to play catch up. It's a no brainer. It really is. At the price you're going to get, the knowledge you're going to get, you can hand that off really, really easily. Now, uh, how do you essentially justify doing that? You have to have some kind of a setup fee. You have to have some kind of a upsell to where you say, cool, if I'm going to do this, it's going to be this much more. And then of course, from that amount, you're either going to pass over all of it or a portion of it to your VA. That's exactly what I do. I close massive deals. I talk with my VA. I usually pay them between 5 and 15% of where I close because they're not always doing all of the work. And then depending on what they're doing, sometimes I'll even do some kind of a profit or revenue share with them just to further tell them I appreciate what they're doing. But usually it depends on the project. It depends on the, what they're doing as in terms of revenue generating or not. Um, and then from there also boils down to negotiation, like making sure that they're happy to work with you. If they're happy to work with you, then they are going to continue to work with you. If they're happy to work with you, then they're going to want to work with you. If they're happy to work with you, then they are going to over communicate and they're going to go above and beyond. And they're going to understand that you're a good individual to work with and they don't want to jeopardize that relationship. At the same time, I tell everybody, make sure you also treat them with that same amount of appreciation to make sure that you are always keeping them happy. Because if they're really good at what they're doing, then yeah, pay them more to stick around. Pay them more to, complete certain things faster. Pay them more to do whatever it is that you're trying to do. But just make sure that you treat them like a person and make sure that they are actually uh, qualified to work with you in terms of the scope, right? What are they doing a good job? Is the quality there? Is the timeline there? And all of that kind of information. So to answer your question directly, Alan, I would basically say, hey, for me to give you a full diagnostic report and prescription of what I would recommend, I need to see all the software you're doing, as well as what you're trying to do. Like, what's the end goal? And then from there, you would say, cool, now I'm going to prescribe to you. This is how we're going to do what you want to do. And when you're asking them what they want to do, you're not asking them, oh, cool, like you want to use this software. You're not asking them the specifics. You're asking them, what's the end goal? So if you're working with next gen ed tech, I love what you said. You also need next gen sales process. So when they tell you what they're trying to achieve in terms of the big picture, you tell them, cool, here is how we do that. We do that using my process. We have to follow my process because my process is my process for a reason, because it works or because it's thought out or because it's structured or because it's modeled after the most successful methods that are working in the industry now. So I know there's some tech issues with Alan. If you rewatch it, this will definitely answer those questions for you. If you want to lay out a proposal and demo, here's what I'll say about proposals and demos. There was this big, big issue. Alan, I'm not sure this is something that you possibly remember, but there's this big issue like late 90s, maybe even just the 90s and early 2000s. Big issue where these companies would say, hey, we want a proposal. And these people would put together these beautiful proposals and send them in, hoping they would get the job. And the company would essentially just finger through all the proposals and be like, cool, we'll take this one. And then they would just hand it off to their team and they just got a free game plan or free project plan. And that would kind of, screw them out of getting the actual job because they basically got what they needed and they said, cool, we don't need you. So what I would recommend would be, speak with the VA, tell him, here's what I'm working with. Here's what we want to do. How would we do it? I'll give you his contact information. He's phenomenal. And then he will kind of give you a roadmap or a game plan in terms of how to do that. So there's nothing wrong with doing a proposal, but if you remember in the ultimate closing framework, what we talk about is when we cover the acknowledging the gap or we cover the proposal, we want to keep it under 5 minutes because if we give away too much, they're going to take it and run. So we want to basically share enough that is going to get the close, or at least if you cover that 5 minutes, sometimes they'll close right there. Sometimes they will ask a question about something specific you mentioned, and that's where you can go more in depth. So it's really nice to basically say, here's the process in the broad strokes. Do you have any questions? And then let them guide the conversation. That will also give you a chance to further validate yourself as an expert. I know you said you used to work with that company, so maybe they already view you as such, but if not, it's a really good way to have them view you as an expert. So, um, you said it's a company I'm employed by and want to make my life easier. Yeah, that's where, if you're currently employed by them, then it's definitely gonna be a little bit harder unless they're like listening to you and eyes are, wide open and they're really paying attention. But it's always gonna be the same thing. Look at what they're doing, look at what they're using, look at where they want to go, develop a plan to bridge the gap, cover it in roughly 5 to 10 minutes, not going too in depth with how you're gonna do it, but rather what you're gonna do and some broad strokes of the how and the why. That will then prompt questions where you can then answer, validate, and close. And then, of course, you want to focus on why your methodology is going to work. And when they ask about price, what you're going to do is you're going to take it through what we cover in the training, which is essentially don't acknowledge the price yet, right? This is again at the end of the presentation. You don't do this in the beginning because you want the discovery to take place, which I'm sure you're already familiar with. But when you cover the pricing, you want to make sure you're figuring out where they want to be, how much money they want to make, and then price according to how much money they want to make, how much competition you have, how much barrier to entry there is in terms of knowledge or industry, and a few other key things. But essentially, I like to sit between 5 and 20% of what I'm going to make them. So if I'm going to make them $100,000, I probably want to make at least $5 to $10,000 off of that plan. If it's a monthly thing, if it's 100,000 a month, then yeah, it's going to be about 2.5 to 10K a month minimum. So if it's about making your life easier, then I would really just focus on what we covered, right? So very quick recap, what they're using, where they are, where they want to be, and then creating a mini proposal when you have a little sales call with them. You can do the proposal using a pitch deck, slideshow. That probably sounds like it's going to be more in the realm of what you want to do. I wouldn't use a Google Doc or talk just off your head, just because it sounds like if you're working with this company and they understand you and they trust you a little bit, maybe you trust them a little bit, you probably want to have that meeting a little more structured. Otherwise, I would tell you, just go off the dome and have that presentation in a very relaxed setting. So hopefully that answers your question. That's most of what we had scheduled for today's call. If anybody has any final questions or anything, feel free to go ahead and drop those now so I can address them. But otherwise, that's about it. Let me see if Naman has any questions, just since he's in the chat right now. Naman, do you have anything else before we go?
No, I'm good. I'm good.
Awesome. Well, that is everything for today. I appreciate you guys coming out. If you have any comments, questions, concerns, requests, as always, melt my phone. Let me know how you guys felt about the new video environment and how you felt about it, whether you liked it, loved it, or absolutely hated it. Alan, I will send you those VA details and then you can let me know how that goes. But yeah, that's about it for today. So I will go ahead and wrap up the presentation. And I, again, appreciate everything, guys. Have a good one.